Randall, and I'm so excited tonight to be sharing some information with you and to be interviewing the founder of the American Anti-Cancer Institute, Mr. Bob Wright. Welcome to the show tonight, Bob.
Thank you very much, Tracee. I'm delighted to be here once again.
I know you are, and for those of you who might recognize Bob, not necessarily by the AACI, but he's also the author of an incredible book that hit the stands a few years ago called "Killing Cancer, Not People." And Bob, we're just so grateful for what you've done in giving the information that we're going to be sharing and your book.
Well, thank you so much. As I stated last time, God really wrote the book. He just used my hand to do it. And I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. And again, it's written more like a novel, so people will actually use it. It becomes a tool for them to use rather than something they can't comprehend and can't use after they read it.
That's what I love about it. Absolutely. Let's see. I'm having a little technical difficulty. Let me see if I can make a correction here. Of course. Hold on. I apologize. I may not be able to. You know how technology goes. There we go. So thank you again for your book. And before we get started on tonight's interview, I am going to ask our viewers as they come on to do a couple of things. Definitely want them to watch and listen and take notes from this interview tonight. But we also want to make sure that you have liked the American Anti-Cancer Institute Facebook page. Real important that you do that. That way you'll be getting notifications about when we go live with Bob with these interviews, as well as other important information that we share here at the AACI. Also, we want you to subscribe to the AACI newsletter, the next issue coming out December 1st, so just a couple of days away. And to do that, you go to www.getmadaboutcancer.com. So with that being said, a little bit of housekeeping business here, Bob. Over the past a few weeks actually, we've talked extensively about 4 of your 5 steps to healthy living, as you know. And of course, the steps are outlined in the book, Killing Cancer, Not People. But tonight, I'm going to jump right in. Tonight, we do have an interview that we think is a little bit more controversial, and we're going to be talking about cannabis, medical marijuana, hemp. And, Bob, I know just from being out there in the world that people are a little bit confused. They have some questions about cannabis. They don't really understand it. You did share a lot of information about it at our health summit here in Atlanta in April. And there's some great information there on that health summit video. But why don't you just jump right in by telling us a little bit of history about hemp, what exactly is hemp, and whatever you'd like to share about it.
Okay, well, you know that I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and in the late 60s, I made my trek down through Haight-Ashbury in the San Francisco area, and so I was introduced, you might say, to cannabis at a relatively young age. Of course, I do not partake of it at all, and I'm not saying that that was always the case, because at that age you had to try everything once, But I'm not a big fan of a part of this that we're going to talk about tonight. But I am a big fan of hemp, and the history of hemp is really rich. And it's really long, and that surprises most people. I mean, in the 1600s in the United States, we were growing hemp here for industrial use, for canvas, for paper. The Declaration of Independence, one of the drafts was written on hemp paper. Think about that. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson grew hemp. Hemp was a universal product that could also be used for healthcare, and it was, and it is even today. And so it went out of fashion in probably the 1930s when of course, synthetic things became in vogue at that time. And there was a desire to push hemp out of the market for drugs and other things, of course. And it's what we fight against even today with hemp once again, and with cannabinoids of all kinds. And it's because of politics. It's about politics and money, really, when you get down to it. So, yeah, we are going to be a little controversial today. but we have a desire and a need to tell people the truth. And that goes with medical marijuana, with hemp, and everything else. So let's get going and really talk about this.
I love it. Great history about hemp. And, I grew up actually in the 70s, and we had, we know a little bit about that as well. But I really don't know that much about, cannabis. And I know a lot of times people do get medical marijuana and cannabis and hemp all kind of tangled up. I know that when my older son was, going through his teenage years, he actually made some hemp necklaces for me, really, really nice necklaces out of the hemp. And it's just so funny that we only associate it with that, thing we think about in the 60s and 70s. But let's clear up some of that fiction tonight and talk a little bit about it. At the Get Mad About Cancer Health Summit back here in April, here in Atlanta, you shared what is an let me see if I can say it right, endocannabinoid system. Is that correct?
Endocannabinoid system.
Yes, and how does CBD feed the CB1 and CB2 receptors to create? You know what I'm trying to ask, Bob. See,
sure.
Yeah, can you explain more about it? Obviously, I'm more confused than anyone.
Well, endo really means inside, and the endocannabinoid system is the system that deals with the cannabinoids within your body.
I do hope he comes back, because I know nothing about this, and here he comes. All right.
Okay. What we don't know is that endocannabinoid system that's within ourselves makes its own cannabinoids, and they're slightly different. They're not exactly the same as the plant cannabinoids that we're so used to and that we talk about. But this system is set up within our body, and it has receptors on virtually every cell in our body. So believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, almost every cell in your body has cannabinoid receptors on it. And that's because we used to use hemp, we used to eat it, we used to use the oils, and it's said to be a system within our larger system that has a lot to do.
He'll be back. Just be patient.
You probably lost me again. Am I back?
Yes, you're back. He said that has a lot to do with?
Has a lot to do with the homeostasis of our body, which I break down to the epigenetics. You've heard me talk about epigenetics many times, and that has to do with the systems in our body that make things go, and that could be detoxification systems, hormonal systems, enzymatic systems, and now we know that can be the cannabinoid.
I apologize for the reception tonight, but hang with us. He'll be back. All right, we lost you for a minute.
We must have a busy time. The internet's really boiling today, but we have the C1 and the C2 receptors in our body. And of course, marijuana and the THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol.
Oh, now we totally lost Bob, and that is a first. There you are. You're back.
Yeah. Has a tendency to attach to the C1 receptors, whereas the hemp is the C2. And the C1 is more related to our nervous system and our brain, and that's why we get the big buzz. And a lot of companies that are making these products now will mix the two. The marijuana itself with the cannabidiol, which is the hemp, and in order to get a proportion so it can.
He'll be back.
So they can be mixed, but depending on where they land, in the CBDs from the hemp are going to land mostly on the CB2 receptors within the body. And so you're not going to get that high. And that's the differentiation between really the hemp cannabidiols and the THC of the marijuana plant. And so, I'm not a big promoter of marijuana. And anytime you smoke something, you're putting 100 or hundreds of carcinogens within your body. I'm not saying that marijuana with CBD or with THC in the oils is bad for you at all. I just don't believe that people need to get the high, and the CBDs are proving out in many different areas, and many different sicknesses and diseases we can see are being helped by the CBDs. I'm not making a judgment today saying don't do this, do this. Because a lot of people are going to do the THC and the marijuana regardless. They're going to do it in oils, they're going to smoke it. And we know why cancer patients, it also relieves their pain. It increases their appetite, relieves their pain. And it also helps with the nausea associated with the chemotherapy and the radiation. So I know why people do it. I don't blame them for doing it. But I think there's a better way, I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and we're going here. Wow, we're having some technical difficulties. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, great. Just a little echo for some reason. So I know that when we were sharing information about the CBD and the hemp when you were here in Atlanta, I know that there are products that have absolutely nothing that can make a person high, and also can even allow a person to pass a drug test if they weren't, where there's just no evidence of the stuff that'll make you high. So you want to talk a little bit more about that, if you don't mind?
Well, I don't know about people trying to pass a drug test.
I'm thinking about people that work, maybe at a government job, something like that. I know they're concerned about using cannabis because they're afraid that it will come back positive. But my understanding is that you can get cannabis with nothing that would implicate someone.
Well, yeah. That THC is going to stay in your body for at least up to a month. And that's why people are a little afraid of it, for their job, the random drug tests and all of that, because it hangs with you. Whereas most other drugs have a very short half-life and they're out of your body in almost no time at all. So I get that. But we really like the CBDs, the cannabidiol in hemp and in the hemp oils. And there's many things that can be done with those hemp oils as well to make them very nutritious within the body. And it goes beyond just wanting to treat disease and sickness. It's nutrition. It's that homeostasis and the restoring the epigenetics. So it goes beyond just getting high or anything like that. But we've seen many CBD oils now from hemp that are very good and just doing wonderful things for people.
That's awesome. I've heard lots of great testimonies, and I know even here in Atlanta, we had some testimonies about pain relief of all kinds, not just when someone is dealing with cancer, but, autoimmune diseases and just different reasons that people are in pain, and the benefits of the hemp and how it helps with the pain relief. And I know you're a testimony man. You love the testimonies, and that's one of the things that really I love about you so much, Bob, is, it's not scientific information is so hugely important, but unless people are getting true results, you really, don't typically endorse something. Share a little bit more about how it relates to cancer, maybe what your thoughts are, with using hemp for cancer patients.
Well, there's actually been many studies done, although if you listen to the FDA and the AMA, they are always at odds with this subject because they protect the pharmaceutical companies. We know that. And again, we get back to the power and money type of situation, which we don't want to have anything to do with. We study the science, like you said, we do the research, and we want to know what's good for people, not what's good for power. Trials that have been done or that are going to be done by drug companies, unless they're doing it in some way to enrich themselves. And that's why it's always been muted, and it will continue to be. There's a bill going through right now trying to even list like CBDs as class 1 drugs. And even though 28 states probably have approved the CBD oils, and many of them the THC oils as well, for medical use. Medical use, again,
Okay.
medicinally. And so, oh, you're back. There you are. So I even forgot where I was because I watch you and you go away. And so I know you're not seeing me. But anyway, we need to distinguish once again what we're doing here. And we need to make sure it's good for people. And it's good for people without the bad effects. I mean, we know drugs have one effect that's supposed to benefit you somehow. It does on occasion, but drugs have 100 different effects. People call them side effects, but they're really just more effects of the drug. Now, the effects of CBD outside of the hallucinatory and that type of thing are generally good effects as well.
Right. And, you know, and I know that it's a little difficult watching the interview because we are breaking up quite a bit, but I'm thinking people can piece it together. And we are having people ask if there's a certain, you know, company or something that you recommend. And I will say that you don't talk about this, at least as far as I can remember in your book, Killing Cancer, Not People. There's not anything about cannabis in your book. Is there, Bob?
Well, there is not. You know, that book was written, the third edition, over 3 years ago now, and we're working on the fourth edition, but it'll be a while yet. But it was too soon for us at that point. We had to do more homework and more study and people just kept asking us about it day in and day out. So that's when we really endeavored to learn more about it and how it works again in the human body. Obviously, we've known of CBDs and marijuana for some period of time, but we needed to know what are the therapeutic or the beneficial values that are associated with these two things, and how do they work for human beings, not rats, not test tubes, but how do they work for humans?
Right. Well, that's what I thought. Now, I do know that when, again, people are asking, you know, which products, you know, how do they know where to go? Because that is hugely important. The source, as we know, for everything that we talk about, your water, your nutrition, your supplements, the source is hugely important. So we are going to ask, for the sake of time, that if anyone is interested in specific companies or where to get this product and the best way to use it, all of that, that they just go ahead and send us an email at productsaaci@gmail.com, and that way we can respond back and give them more information. So that's where they do that. Also, I do want to just take a minute to remind people that there's a great about an hour's worth of information, much more detailed than what we're going into here, about this product, and they can get that on the Get Mad About Cancer Health Summit. And right now it's still on special for just $25, and you can get it at www.getmadaboutcancer.com. So we'll put that back up there on the screen here in just a moment. So we talked about that, you know, when people do use the hemp oil and the cannabis and all for pain relief, but what about the long-term effects? Well, I think you've already answered it, but let's go ahead and just make it really plain so people will hear this. The long-term effects of people using hemp. What would you say about that for prevention's sake, and even after people's pain has been relieved?
Well, we firmly believe here what prevents heals, and what heals prevents. It's kind of a two-way street here, and I think that's been proven over time. When again, we started out with the history of hemp, and we went back to the 1600s, and people were eating it and living long lives. And because hemp in its purest form, and there's really problems now with medical marijuana and the way people are growing it and the way it's distributed with all of the pesticides and herbicides and everything, and it's tearing up the land that they're growing it into and polluting and poisoning the land. But that aside, we truly believe that hemp in itself, in its purest form, is very nutritional and very epigenetic and helps in the homeostasis of the body. That's a good thing. That's an ongoing thing. There's really no time limit on that. However, if you're going to smoke marijuana, there is a time limit, folks, and we need to know that. Not that it wouldn't be good for you in some aspects, but the bad in that case outweighs the good if we're looking for longevity and healing. Yes, it will relieve your pain to an extent, and it will help you with nausea and on with those things. But we don't need to smoke it. And people want to argue with me, but this isn't an argument they're going to win, because you don't smoke things. I don't care what it is, because you're flooding the lungs with all those blood vessels that go out to the body with poisons and carcinogens.
Absolutely. So agree with you. And you know, listen, no one here is arguing with you tonight. And we're not going to let them argue with you, because I know you know, and it just only makes sense. You know, so many times we just need people to use their common sense. And, you know, it just makes sense that when you inhale something and put it in your body, that the bad's going to outweigh the good. And there's so much available with different companies with the hemp. And, you know, I know that you endorse a couple of products and companies. So I hope people will shoot an email to us at productsaaci@gmail.com. And that way we can share more information about that. But in the meantime, what else, Bob, tonight do you feel like you want to share about this subject that you believe the listeners need to hear? I know you've shared a lot, and you've shared your opinion, which is strong, but what else would you like to share?
Well, you know, it goes beyond, once again, what we traditionally see. I mean, people are taking it for cancer now, and the things that we've listed. But it goes beyond that too. We've seen some fabulous results with autism, with epilepsy. And you had mentioned earlier the autoimmunes like lupus and fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis. So we're going to learn to know these plants, whether it is the marijuana plant, the hemp plants, as probably one of the greatest discoveries that have ever been made for health and healing. Wow. And they've just been held down and held back for so long that the public has really been prohibited. I mean, it's been illegal for you to even obtain it, and then to use it was illegal as well. But we mentioned part of the reason why that was. We're going to discover that these plants are so nutritional, so therapeutic, so health and healing oriented, that some people could well call it a miracle. Wow. And some people are doing that right now. I haven't gone that far yet, but I know people would argue with me on that point too, because it seems to be doing wonderful things for people. And we really can't dispute that. That's the old proof in the pudding type of thing. How does it work in the human body?
That is so powerful. I've never heard you be quite so strong about something, and I'm grateful to hear it. And, you know, I know that when we talk about these things, because we've talked about, you know, the 5 steps that you talk about, your protocol, so to speak, to live a healthy life, which are the 5 steps that you put in the book. And we talked about those 5 steps in the other interviews. And one of the things that you've mentioned is that, you know, each one is a piece of the puzzle. You know, we really need to look at living a healthy lifestyle. What is it going to take in today's world, filled with chemicals, filled with pesticides, to really live an effective, healthy life? And apparently you believe that this is a big piece of the puzzle, and I'm excited to know that, and excited about, you know, maybe some people trying it and using it, and we can get some more testimonies. That would be exciting. But we talk about the 5-step protocol, and I'd love for you, just before we close out today, to just go quickly through your 5 steps. What are they, and why are they so important?
Well, we need the right food, obviously, and that doesn't need a whole lot of explaining, except organic is better, folks. Cupcakes, Big Macs, my apologies to McDonald's, Coca-Cola. These things are known to be non-nutritional types of things. I don't know that we can call them foods. Some people would call them junk foods, but there's no such thing as junk food. There's food and there's junk. And that's where it ends right there. And so I've lost my train of thought here. I get off on junk food and I can go for a long period of time here.
5 steps.
Yeah, the 5 steps. That's where I was. Yeah. The right food. We need the right water. And we talked about Kangen water, ionized water. And again, it doesn't have to exclusively be Kangen water, but we haven't found anyone who measures up to that yet. So we will continue to forward that water because it's the Rolls Royce of water ionizers through the Enagic company, Kangen Water. And the science is behind it. Don't think it's just water, folks. The science is behind it. And we talk about the right supplements. Not going to mention any companies here today, but we need the right nutritional supplements because we're not getting enough in our food today. And we can find that in the book. That's correct. And we just know that we need something else. And what we're talking about today will actually fall right into that supplement category. Right. And then we need the right detoxification. People don't detox their bodies down to the cellular level, and it's not enough. It's not enough. Most people have never detoxed in their life and wouldn't know how to do it. We need to learn how to do that. And the last thing is exercise. We need to get out and move. We need to move the lymph system. We need to get oxygen into our circulatory system. You know, I like whole body vibration. I have one of those machines because it exercises everything in my 10 minutes on the machine is like.
Oh, I love it when you freeze, Bob. I know he'll be back, but.
Yeah, I'm back.
You're back. So 10 minutes on the machine is like an hour in the gym?
That is correct.
I love it.
Exercising every cell in your body, and they're breathing. The oxygen and the food are going in. The waste is coming out. You're moving the lymph system. You're doing everything that your body needs to do in exercise. So it's a wonderful thing to do.
It is. So the 5 steps, I had put them out there on the screen. And, you know, again, it's not just the one thing. Everyone wants that magic bullet. And I know that if we just did one thing, it's not enough. We really have to make a decision. And that's what Get Mad About Cancer is. Make a decision that cancer won't touch us or the ones that we love. We know the statistics are out there. So in closing, I definitely want the listeners to know that a couple of things, you know, if you go to that getmadaboutcancer.com website, there's a lot of information there. That's where you can sign up to subscribe for the monthly newsletter from the AACI with all kinds of great information. You can, there is where you can actually purchase Bob's book, Killing Cancer, Not People. And it does share in one of the chapters about the nutritional source that you recommend as well, that we aren't able to say live here. And then also we have the Killing Cancer, Not People. And then we have the Get Mad About Cancer video. It was a 2 days of you here in Atlanta, and we did talk about cannabis and medical, all of these things in more detail, and answer a lot of great questions. But that's available for just $25 there on the website. So I encourage you to go to Get Mad About Cancer, support the AACI. When you do make a purchase, it does go to benefit what Bob's doing to continue to educate. The AACI is a nonprofit, so we appreciate your purchases because it absolutely will go to benefit this incredible mission that you have to educate Bob. So we appreciate you again, just like every Monday. We love it. Thank you so much for taking time out to share information. I really learned some new things about this tonight, and I'm glad to hear that you're so you know, that you're calling it, well, some people calling it a miracle, and that's really hugely important. So is there anything else you'd like to say before I close out? Why should people buy your book, Bob?
Well, I think the book has some answers in it. And I've searched for those for many, many years, over a quarter of a century when it comes to cancer and other things. And I think that by the grace of God, I was able to find some of the answers, and I'm willing to share them. And you can make your own judgments, of course, but it's pretty important, not just if you have cancer, but any sickness at all, or just want to stay well, because the applications go across the board.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about this and other subjects. We've got a great subject lined up for next Monday, and so we appreciate you so much. And for those of you who are listening tonight, be sure and share this interview, comment, tag, post. We really want to get this information out there. We want people to know about the AACI. And thank you again, Bob, for everything that you're doing. We appreciate you so very much.
Thank you, Tracee.
All right. See you next time.